From studios at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, this is Fourth and State. In this edition, a prominent Egyptian journalist expresses grave concerns about his nation as the Muslim Brotherhood puts its stamp on Egypt through a restrictive new constitution. I'm David Haynes. I'm the opinions editor at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. And I'm joined today by Wael Abbas, who's a prominent Egyptian blogger and journalist from Cairo. He was right in the thick of things during the Arab Spring about a year and a half ago and has suffered for his work. He's been jailed. He's had things done to him and said about him. He's a brave young man who is here to talk to us today about what's going on in Egypt today. Wael, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us.
Pleasure.
And there's some news this morning out of Egypt that I think we should talk about first, and that is what's happening with the Constitution and what the President Mohammed Morsi is doing there. What's your view on what's happening currently with the writing of the new Constitution?
I'm really sad and angry at the same time about what's going on. Today, the Constitutional Committee is they are meeting and they are trying to pass the articles of the new constitution despite the withdrawal of the most of the liberal and the secular and Christian members of the committee. They have fired them and they have assigned new members who are all Islamists. Can you imagine that there is a Muslim who is representing the Coptic Church in this committee? It's not legal, and I will not recognize this constitution if it was ever going to pass or being put on for people to vote.
And I think you have some concerns about rights for ethnic minorities in the country and also women. Can you explain what your concerns are there?
Well, the women are almost excluded from the Constitution. There was an article about the equality between men and women in the Constitution that was removed.
You're concerned that the Constitution, as it's been amended or changed in very recent days, doesn't guarantee necessarily the same sorts of freedoms that I think many people expected.
Yeah, the situation says that Egypt is going to be a Sunni state, which means that it will not recognize Shias, it will not recognize other religious minorities like the Baha'is and the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's not going to give them the right to practice their own religion or build their own mosques or churches. It will crack down on personal freedoms because now the Constitution will include an article about morals and how the state should preserve the values of family and morals and stuff like that. So it's not really promising what they are proposing now. Before the other members withdraw from the committee, there was articles that they objected completely. But right after they withdrew, all the articles that those people opposed came back again.
Is this in your view, a takeover of the government by the Muslim Brotherhood?
It is, and it is also trying to force things on the Egyptians. The Islamists are not the majority in Egypt, and they don't really represent the revolution, and the demands of the revolution were not met at all at this constitution. So what they are doing now is unacceptable and illegal.
What's next, in your view, from the point of view of average citizens in Egypt, many of whom are in the streets now protesting?
What's next is to be decided by the people on the street now. There's huge rallies and demonstrations in Cairo and outside Cairo in many cities all over the country, and I believe that if this becomes stronger, it can make a change to the situation that we have at the moment.
What was your reaction to the move in recent days by Egyptian President Mohammed Morsi to essentially seize almost near absolutist power?
I didn't like what he did. He did it without consulting anybody, and it doesn't look good at all to have all these powers in his hand, judiciary and executive and legislative powers. And also he reinforced the decisions that he made and the decisions he's going to make in the future. So he's almost a dictator now, and he didn't even win that much of a majority in the elections. He won by 50-something%, which doesn't entitle him to become that dictator that he wants to be.
So do you buy his explanation for the moves that he took to crack down?
All dictators tell lies to justify what they're doing. Nasser did it before, and we lived under a military tyranny for 60 years. So I'm not going to buy what he said about it's temporary, it's going to be there for only for 2 months. And the Muslim Brotherhood in general have told us a lot of lies in the last 2 years after the revolution, like when they said we're not going to run for the majority in a parliament, and then they did, and they said we're not going to nominate a candidate for the presidency, and then they did. So why should we believe them?
Take us back to those early days of the Arab Spring, and I should mention that you've been blogging since 2004, and you rose to prominence as a blogger in part over some reporting you did in around 2006 of a beating by Egyptian police of a bus driver. You've had, at times, you may have now up to 1 million followers for your blogs, so people are reading what you say. What was it like in those early days of the Arab Spring when you and other bloggers were essentially leading and helping to organize what was going on in the streets?
I think those days were better than the ones we have. Things were easier, although it was really difficult back then, but it was easy because the enemy was one, the enemy was clear, and we know their tactics were familiar. We knew how to deal with them, we knew how to respond, how to work under the rules that they have imposed. But things now are not that clear, and people are divided. Tactics are also not the same as we used to do during Mubarak. So, yeah, that's what.
Yeah. How did you get started blogging? Take us back to that. What was it that prompted you to decide to do that? I think you told us earlier you had studied English language and literature.
Yeah.
So how did that evolve into blogging?
I was always interested in journalism and media, and although there were always claims by Mubarak's regime that Egypt is a free country and a democracy and we have freedom of expression, but I felt the hypocrisy in the traditional media, and that they don't cover all the stories that they should cover. There is not real criticism of the regime in the media. There is a lot of hypocrisy in the media. So I felt that we need to have an alternative kind of media that really represents the people and tell the people what they know and tell the real story, and doesn't abide by the rules of the traditional media and doesn't consider taboos as the traditional media does. So I found an outlet in the internet that there is a possibility to do whatever you want to do and talk about whatever you want to talk about in the media, and talk freely and interact with the people too, because traditional media was only one way for ever since it was started. So that's why I resorted to using the internet to say whatever I want to say, and to also cover stories that everybody's abstaining from covering.
And so you're going to be talking at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee about social media. Social media has had a profound effect in the Middle East. Can you talk just for a minute or two about what that effect has been, and has it affected the politics of the Middle East, particularly Egypt?
Social media was something that was needed by the people. They were hungry for it, but they just didn't know, because our media in the region doesn't really represent us. People did not have a voice. They did not know where to go to complain or to say what they feel, or to share their stories or their experience with others, or to seek advice. This is a role that the media should have been doing, but it wasn't doing. But when people discovered social media, they resorted to it. Even politicians who were denied the right to organize or to form political parties, they were able to meet and organize and discuss stuff and plan for activities on the street, strikes, sit-ins, rallies. So the introduction of social media has compensated for something that was really lacking in our region.
And one final question: how have you, what prices have you had to pay personally for being a journalist these last few years in Egypt?
The main target of the Mubarak's regime, and this regime also, is to discredit any critic, activists or journalists or bloggers, whatever. During Mubarak's time, for example, I was accused of being a homosexual, which is not really tolerated in a conservative society like the Egyptian one. I was accused of converting to Christianity, which is also can be considered a crime. I was accused of having a criminal record and criminal past, and that's why I hate the police and post about police brutality. I was on the watch list in the airport every time that I traveled for a conference or a meeting or something. I was searched like I was a drug dealer. They confiscated any electronic devices that I had. I wasn't able to travel with a laptop for a long time. There were lawsuits fabricated against me. I was arrested several times in occasions when I'm trying to do some activity on the street, like when we were going to pay condolences to the families of some Christians who were killed in a sectarian massacre in Upper Egypt, and was accused of inciting sectarian violence. My phone was tapped. I was being followed sometimes by the police. There were threats on my phone, threats to my family. You name it.
So you've had to put up with a lot. Why do you still do it?
Because I want my country to be better. I have no other country to belong to, and I was born there, and I love it. I love our history. I love the people, and I wish that we become one day as developed as Europe or as the United States, with people doing what they feel that they want to do and expressing their opinions freely without fearing the wrath of the authority or the religious authority, the mosque or the church or anything like that.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Wael Abbas, who's a prominent Egyptian blogger. He's speaking at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.